Tonight at Santa Muerte. I'm your host, John Brixley, and for today's opening interview, we have Detective Bonnie Future. Thank you for joining us, Bonnie.
I'm honored to be here.
Now, I understand you're relatively new to being a freelance detective, is that correct?
That's true, yes. Though now I think it's been about 5 years.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, what made you become a freelance detective then?
Well, I've always had an interest in law and justice, but I decided to become a detective when my younger sister went missing.
Oh, your sister went missing?
Yes.
What did you do?
Our family really didn't have any money, and the police force at the time weren't doing anything to look for her. So I got the newspaper, and the front page had Diego's story about how he found the missing Wessington children. And I came to him with everything I had. Admittedly, it wasn't much.
So what happened then?
Well, he took the job. Found my sister 2 days later. It turns out she fell down a cliff and broke her spine on the way home from school. She couldn't move and could barely breathe. She's in a wheelchair now, but alive and well. I owe Diego for saving my sister, and I asked him to help me become a detective myself. 12 years later, I'm here with you now.
So, you and Diego are quite close then?
Oh yes, he's my best friend. We're practically inseparable.
Do you think that you two might ever become more than friends?
Oh, well, that's something a little too personal to speak of, I think.
Well, there is certainly talk about the two of you.
People can talk, I don't mind. I've gotten used to it, considering I'm one of the few openly transsexual women in this city.
And do your relationships struggle because of that?
No. Well, perhaps. Although certainly not where Diego's concerned. I suppose it's more to do with me. It's complicated. I apologize if I'm oversharing.
Oh, not at all. Reporters love overshares. You're making my job much easier.
Well, I'm glad to help.
So, now about the recent case. We haven't heard much about the murder of Ruth Moraquay, and some are passing rumors that the trail has gone cold. What do you say about that?
Well, there isn't much that I'm really at liberty to say. We already had a bit of struggle with this case involving someone so popular. Everyone wants to know what happened to the famous radio host and tea enthusiast, Ruth Moraquay.
She was a friend to many people.
I'm well aware. The sheer amount of people Diego and I investigated is proof enough that she was a well-respected woman. She will be missed.
There have been rumors that there may be a serial killer on the loose. Do you have any comments?
Rumors only serve to harm a case, Mr. Brixley. The fact is, we don't have enough evidence to know for sure, and we don't want to jump to conclusions and end up following the wrong threads. But there is something that can help.
Oh?
If anyone knows someone who might have been close to Ruth Moraquay and disappeared shortly after her passing, notify the Santa Muerte police immediately.
Do you hear that, audience? If you have any information about anyone who may have been close to Ruth Moraquay who disappeared, contact the Santa Muerte police immediately. Well, thank you for your visit, Bonnie. We're almost out of time, but before we go, is there any last parting word you'd like to give our listeners?
I suppose just surround yourself with good people. They can be hard to find sometimes, and it isn't easy to let go of people that are bad for you in many cases. But if you can figure it out and try to be a better person yourself, you will manage to live a much happier life. I say this from experience. Even if you've only been surrounded by those that aim to only harm you, good people are out there. Keep your eyes and your heart open.
Very insightful. Well, people of Santa Muerte, that's all for this interview. We'll be back with discussion and local news after these messages.
This recording of Tonight at Santa Muerte is brought to you by the Tarot Killer Podcast, with John McLeod as John Brixley and Kenita Hill as Detective Bonnie Future. Produced, directed, and written by Gene Bruce, and musical score by Russell Torres. Go to TarotKillerPodcast.com for updates, merch, and information on how you can support the show. Stay tuned for more interviews in the future and announcements for our pilot episode of the radio drama-inspired podcast, Tarot Killer.